Welcome to Pick a Lane. I'm Josh.
And I'm Erin. And apparently, we have a lot to say.
I lived with chronic illness for years and then finally healed using a technology called bioenergetics.
Through that experience, we co-founded a holistic wellness brand called Rudy.
We've learned a lot, to say the least, and we want to share it with you.
We'll explore mindfulness, wellness, and spirituality.
Topics ranging from pooping out parasites to breathwork and even traveling to parallel universes.
We spent a lot of years not living authentic to ourselves.
So our hope for Pick a Lane is to help you find your freedom and pick your own lane in life.
Tune in to a new episode of the Pick a Lane podcast every Friday on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
And subscribe and review if you haven't already.
We hope the show resonates and we can't wait to connect.
Welcome to Pick a Lane.
Hi, everybody.
What it do, baby boo?
You know, I feel good. I feel perky. I feel
Feeling
alive.
Great. Perky? What?
Should we end this podcast?
Done. Have a good day, guys.
Not what I meant, but we've been child-free for like 24 hours, which we love and adore our child
Love you,
so
Zoe.
much.
When you listen to this when you're 25, we really love you.
Yes. You bring us nothing but joy.
Except when you're throwing tantrums.
No, but this is just a win-win-win when Zoe goes and has a sleepover at Gigi
Yes.
Pop's house.
We slept in till 7 o'clock. It was awesome.
Still saw the sunrise. Still had our king coffee.
Pulled some tarot cards this morning.
Really an ideal way to start the day.
Yep. What's lighting you up?
Ooh, quantum biology.
Yeah, you're into it right
I'm
now.
so deep.
Man, Erin is gone, y'all. She will wear headphones, but her hair will be down, and I'll have no idea that she's got a podcast in, and I will have a full conversation with myself, not realizing that she's paying zero attention to me.
I'm in one of those seasons where I like forget that like music is an option in my ears. I just want to be learning all the time.
Yeah.
Gotta balance that out with like fun and joy.
You
But
do.
honestly, some ways this is so nerdy and embarrassing to even say out loud, but learning about quantum biology brings me joy. Like it lights me up.
That's great. Why is
Yeah.
that embarrassing?
It's just a little nerdy, but it's really not embarrassing. It's
Yeah.
just not everybody's idea of a good time.
Who cares? Who cares what everybody else's good time
Yeah.
is? This is your good time.
My good time.
So enjoy it.
yeah.
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 Fuck all the haters.
What's your good time?
What kind of question is that? That's how you need to get deep with your friends. What's your good time?
What is your idea of a good time?
We walked 8.5 miles yesterday, which was
Mm.
really awesome. Also, in order to have Erin be a chatterbox, you got to get her moving.
It's so true.
So we were on a walk and she didn't shut up. It was fantastic.
I talked the whole time. And isn't it funny? So I always tell you there's a lot going on in here.
In your brain, yeah.
And it all came out.
Yeah, it was
in
great.
an 8-mile walk. Otherwise, I don't know. It just never feels like an appropriate time to bring up my deep musings about the intricacies of
Yeah, well, I
life.
enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
That was a good time for me.
Good.
Quality time is something I really appreciate.
Mhm.
You're also way in your head all the time.
Mhm.
It's never verbally expressed.
Yeah.
So you're just like, look at Erin, and you're like, huh, there's a
going
lot
on?
going on up in there, but she's not expressing it. And you did on an 8.5 mile walk. It was great.
The tennis ball bouncing also, I think it was like connecting
I
the
told
two
you.
sides of my brain.
Yep.
Yeah, we walked and we bounced tennis balls.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
I know. That's why there were 2 tennis balls on the tennis court. And Erin was like, oh, why you? And I was like, watch.
I thought he
And
was
then
stealing
Erin, I didn't.
I'm an honest Abe over
somebody
here.
left them there.
just for us.
So I retrieved them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the universe.
Mhm.
The universe is like, Erin needs these to keep
Mhm,
talking.
mhm. Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yep.
It was great. I was on a microdose yesterday too.
Wow, what a combo we were.
So yeah, it was incredible. I was just like, wow, these trees are so green and Erin's talking. This is great.
Yep.
How do you think I am on microdosing?
It's been fun to watch you microdose because I feel like we have more in common.
Wow. What a thing to say.
No, I just feel like you get how my brain does all these like deep, weird, like rabbit holes, and now you're having them, and it's fun to have
Man,
that in common.
You create your own psilocybin.
I don't know.
Superwoman over here.
I wouldn't go that far. But
Okay, beyond that, how do you feel I am on psilocybin?
definitely zen is
Yeah,
a word I would
feel
use.
zen.
Nothing really ruffles your feathers very easily.
Fact.
Content is another word I would use. Deep. I feel like you're pulling back layers, and it seems like you care less about superficial things.
Yes.
Yeah, those are some words.
been
I
a
would
ride.
use. It has been a ride.
I'm excited to talk about it more in depth in a later
Yeah.
podcast.
I think we're going to have a whole podcast about microdosing.
But what are you talking about today?
Today, we want to talk about free things that you can do
Free 90 free, baby.
Free 90 free that you can do for your health, because I just think there's so much happening in the wellness world. Everyone's pushing a product, us included. We really believe in Rudy. We believe in bioenergetics and herbal and homeopathic and supplements and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we have an entire company on it. So.
Yeah, obviously we believe in it. However, I think there are foundational things that people can and should be doing for their health that are 100% free.
Agreed. I would almost say that would be a great prerequisite to diving in to the healing journey, whether it be with Rudy or a functional doctor. I don't care who it is, but having those foundational aspects already in play and part of your daily routine, that's going to help a lot.
Yes. So we're going to talk through a lot of those things today. I'm always just thinking about this, like in my own life. And then as I work with clients, like, why is nobody doing these things? Like, we all kind of know that it matters, like sunlight and movement and mindfulness and all these things. Like, why don't we do them?
Yeah, agreed. I have to be honest, I've been pretty frustrated with the chronic illness community recently because it feels like everywhere I turn, there's a lot of victimization at play right now. That kind of goes seasonally almost. There's like a waves back and forth, and it feeds the beast a little bit. So as soon as one or two highly influential people in the chronic illness community turn to victimization to express their frustration or whatever, it becomes this snowball effect where everyone in the chronic illness community tag teams that mentality. One of the things that I'm not seeing at play is all of these free things that we're going to be talking about today,
which are empowering. Like, that can pull you out of the victim mindset
Big
and
time.
into, I can change my physiology. I have power over my physiology, my mind.
That's not to say there isn't predispositions that people inside of chronic illness are dealing with or attacking toxins like Lyme, mold, co-infections, etc., like we always talk about. But having these foundational aspects as part of your everyday routine is one of the biggest hurdles that we're seeing inside of the healing journey with Rudy specifically. People are starting to see progress. They get through a couple scans. We talk about this all the time. And then they smack into a wall. And whether it turns into victimization or just a slowing down of their progress, a lot of times it's because they're not utilizing the free tools that they have, which is really just within themselves and the decisions that they're making on a daily basis to skyrocket them to the next phase of healing. So when the victimization comes into play and people start utilizing that as their fueling mechanism inside of their chronic illness journey, it takes steps back, at least from what I see. And it frustrates me. I was there once. Like, I'm not saying that I was perfect and didn't fall victim to my illness, but that victimization almost becomes an identity. Then you sit in that and welcome to algorithms of social media.
Yes,
it's only going to praise you for identifying as a victim and only going to skyrocket your success in social media when people are commenting inside of that negative space. That's the algorithm. So what happens is then you're almost getting affirmation, the wrong type of positive affirmation, but you're getting an affirmation being like, yes, keep doing this. This is good. It feels good. And then it turns into this mentality and people fall into that and get so stuck.
Yeah.
And I've been having text conversations and a few DMs here and there in the past couple of weeks about this specific thing is once you fall into that victim mentality, it is difficult to get out of it, because just like how we talk about with the opposite effect, like with mantras and positive affirmations and your own style of goal setting and gratefulness, you could do the exact opposite, playing the victim in the chronic illness or in your illness or in your life or in your scarcity, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you start to believe it.
Yeah.
And once you start to believe that, where you start to play that victim and you let chronic illness take hold of you, it's a long journey back coming from experience, and you got to let it go.
Yeah. There's so many beautiful, wonderful aspects of chronic Lyme and a lot of these things coming to the forefront of people's consciousness.
Yeah.
Like having big names like the Bella Hadids and all these people saying, I have chronic Lyme, I'm sick. It's helpful because it's bringing to light this reality that, okay, we're not all crazy. We're not all making this shit up. Like, we're sick.
Right.
But it also opens the door to this victim mentality where I have no responsibility in my circumstances, in my health. Everything's happening to me. Doctors are failing me. The system is failing me. There's so many, of course, there's truth to all of those things, right?
Yeah, so many doctors are assholes and
Yeah.
gaslight you. I went through that. So many people aren't going to believe you. So
Yeah.
many people are going to tell you it's in your head.
Mhm.
You're even going to think it's in your head sometimes. You're also going to think you're crazy sometimes. Your symptoms are going to take a hold of you and cause your life to be altered in ways you don't want it to be. And
Mhm.
you are going to feel out of control. That doesn't mean you have to be a victim to all of these things. Your mentality, your lifestyle choices, how you approach yourself on a daily basis has so much power to
Mm.
fight against the victimized mentality. And that doesn't mean that you're going to heal that way. Although I do believe some can, I couldn't. I know I needed help.
Yeah.
If you go into your healing journey with that mentality, you're not going to get shit out of the remedies or the bioindividuality of healing, or even if some super famous doctor that knows all things, which doesn't fucking exist, but say it did, it's not going to help fully until you release yourself of the victimized mentality and let go all of the things that quote are happening to you instead of just utilizing it as a quote unquote gift. I am so hesitant to call things
Mhm.
gifts because I recognize that can feel or be received as very disrespectful to somebody's journey.
Almost like bypassing the pain or suffering that a person
100%.
is. Yeah.
But I can't go without acknowledging the beauty that came out of the journeys that I've gone through. And now that I've seen so many else go through, that you can't not call it a gift.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the experiences. Do I want to go through it again? Absolutely fucking no. But I had to in order
Yeah.
to get to where I am and learn what I've learned and hopefully impact others. But if you hear nothing else on this episode, just please try so hard to come out of that victimized mentality and start utilizing the free tools that we're going to talk about today to get you out of that rut and start to help you feel more empowered and in control over your situation instead of the other way around.
Yes, I love it. And I think anytime we're talking about these like limiting or sabotaging beliefs, whether that's victimization or perfectionism, there's a bunch. I think it's sometimes helpful. And this is a little bit of that like IFS, internal family systems language. But I think it's helpful to look at, okay, like where did this thing come from? Why is it existing in my mind and body? And when it comes to the victimization mindset, like what is that benefiting me? Yeah, what purpose does this serve? Or is it trying to serve, but it's coming
Yeah.
out sideways? And I think when it comes to the victimization mindset, I think it has to do with really needing and desiring empathy.
The victimization in so many ways is a avenue of control.
Mm.
It's something that you can succumb to but still feel in control of. In chronic illness, you feel so out of control every moment of the day. And sometimes every day you wake up with new symptoms, or sometimes there are worse symptoms, and you have no idea why. You
Mhm.
feel completely out of control. But there is so much control that you can have inside of chronic illness that is going to build the necessary foundation to get out of it. And a lot of that has to do with inner work and minute daily routines and building that necessary foundation for you to move into the next phase of healing, whatever you choose that to look like.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we do have to be careful from moving this victimization where we feel completely out of control. Everything's happening to me. Sometimes that pendulum will swing then to this sort of like perfectionistic fixing
Yeah.
forevermore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, I
so
fell into that.
100%. So I think it is this balance. This is it AA that says, give me the strength to accept the things that I can't change
Yeah.
and change the things that I can. So I think it's just a balance of knowing we don't have all the answers. We will
Yeah.
never have all the answers.
Mhm.
However, there are things within my control, and we're going to talk about those today. Most of them are free.
Yeah.
And I can be doing these things on a daily basis to really change my circumstances.
Mhm.
I do think part of the victimization mindset is also this like really big desire and need for empathy from other people,
Mhm.
which is healthy. Like that is a
Agreed.
healthy, good desire that we all have. Like
Yeah.
we all want to be known and seen and understood and believed, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. It's when it becomes this like black hole of now I'm identifying with all my pain and suffering and nobody understands me and nobody believes me. That's going to become really an all-consuming force in your life,
Mhm.
and it's going to be really hard to make steps forward and
Yeah.
progress out of that state. Just knowing that it's a desire and a need for empathy, and that it's okay and safe and good to pursue that from people close to you in your circle.
Yeah.
And if that's us, great. Like Josh is always saying, please DM me if you need
Straight up.
empathy. Yeah.
I believe you.
Yes.
I could care less what symptoms they are, and if
Yeah.
everyone says they're in your head, I will believe those symptoms are real.
Yeah.
Like, I totally
Yeah.
believe that whatever you're experiencing is real. You've got people in your corner. The one thing I will say, this isn't saying that everyone is a victim, one, and this also isn't saying that there isn't a time and place for that to happen, because I think that's part of the processing
Mhm.
that you have to go through inside of chronic illness. You're going to get fed up with this shit, and you're going to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. I continue to work on that, even with it being fully past. So, yeah, all this to say, we aren't like smacking you on the wrist being like bad chronic illness person. We're just encouraging that there are other ways to approach this. And we are now seeing people on a daily basis going through Rudy that we know if we can get them to understand these foundational pieces, their healing journey is going to look exponentially different. We want you to hear that too.
I think you can approach that victimization mindset. If you're open to seeing that in yourself, which is going to be hard to see, right?
Yeah.
Nobody likes to see the shadow traits.
That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of like a tough love episode, I think.
Yeah.
In some ways. I mean, I want to be meeting people exactly where they are, because we've lived this and we know that if you just tell a person like, drink this much water, eat this food, do this and that, it just doesn't land always.
No.
We're not
And
always.
also a lot of times doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
many more things going on.
Yeah. But that's another reason why I think a lot of people aren't doing these foundational things, because it feels too easy. Like
Yeah.
it feels too accessible and too easy to have real impacts.
Mhm.
Like we always think that healing is going to be hard work. It's
Yeah.
going to be like, I'm a slave to my schedule now. I'm a slave to my diet. I'm a slave to my supplements.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that. It
Mhm.
really doesn't.
Yeah.
Is it going to require some shifts and changes in your daily routine and your lifestyle? Yes, but like we can do that at a 2% at a time.
And chronic illness is already doing that to you.
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
take
that's
some
so
control
true.
over it.
So yeah, that's what we're talking about today. And if it feels like a little bit of tough love, sometimes we need that.
The tough love is coming from very much literally love.
Yes.
I don't want you to go through what I went through. And I genuinely believe that my healing journey would have, yes, like I totally accept and admit even that I needed that journey to look exactly how it looked in order for me to get right here. And I'm thankful for that. But I do believe that if I would have snapped out of my shit faster, my healing process would have looked potentially half as long as it was, specifically inside of the bio-individual healing journey with bioenergetics. We had no idea what the fuck was going on before. Yeah, that's when I wanted to unalive myself. And that's when I wanted to just like go into a deep dark hole and never return. But once we were able to identify things, which bioenergetics and the bio-individuality inside of the healing process we're able to do now with so many people, we're getting answers that nobody was able to figure out. And we're now able to see specific healing journeys for that specific person based on the body telling us what it needs at that given point. If I would have just released the victimized approach that I had and just let go and given myself the empowerment inside of not only my daily routines, but my entire thought process, it would have been totally different.
Probably would have cut, 12 months off your...
I would say 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
I think that there was 6 to 8 months that the whole reason I wasn't progressing was because of what we're talking about right now.
Okay, so I think we need to start with the foundations then. What are they?
The free 90 free
The
foundations.
free 90 free foundations. And obviously there are subcategories within each of these that can and do cost some money, but generally speaking, these things are accessible to everybody and cost very little, if anything at all.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and granted, probably every practitioner maybe would have their own slight tweaks on these, but in my opinion, the foundations are water and nourishment, food. We're going to talk less about those today because I just think a lot of people don't have the capacity to overhaul their diet. And if they do, they've already tried it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk less about that today. I'm also just tired of talking about food because I feel like, again, either people have tried every diet under the sun or they're not ready to change that is really what I find. Food, nourishment, water, and then light is a big one we're going to talk about, which encompasses like circadian rhythm. Light is so much more impactful than people realize. Mindfulness is another one, and mindset. Obviously, we've been talking about that this whole time, but we're going to dive into that as well and how that changes your physiology. That also encompasses like the emotional and soul connection, which I think sometimes gets overlooked. And also air is another one that we may touch on a little bit today. But what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you're breathing, how you're moving, your light environment, all of these things are so foundational. And if they are sometimes just tweaked, again, it doesn't have to be like a 180 in your life. Utilizing those foundations will set you up for success as you do the more complex, whatever that looks like, protocols, whether that's Rudy or if you're working with a physician or a practitioner. If you are skipping these things, the more complex things are only going to get you so far. What happens when we bypass these foundations and we start just like building the house or attempting to build the house, whether that's like through protocols or supplements or whatever, we're building walls of a house, but we haven't poured the foundation. And so one big gust of wind comes by and the whole thing falls over. And we're like, why am I back at square one? Oh no, like I just spent all my money on hypothermic therapy, whatever.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why I was spending upwards of $30,000 a year. We would go through all these protocols, go to a new doctor. They'd make us spend thousands of dollars on supplements, changing our entire diet, all of these things. I'd feel better for a second. Then all of a sudden I'd tank again. And it quote unquote flare ups. Like that's a terminology in the Lyme community where your body will be quote unquote fine for a little while and then you'll flare up really bad and get really sick. And it's this ebb and flow lifestyle almost where like, okay, I'm semi back to normal. My life looks semi normal again. And then the rug gets pulled out underneath you. A lot of times for me, it was that my foundational approach wasn't locked in.
Nobody talked to us about light.
Nobody talked to us about a foundation.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, you need all of these supplements.
Or
and
it's like
remedies.
they all focus on diet, which again is why I'm tired of talking about it. Of course, diet is important. Of course, if you're eating processed food all day, that's not good for your foundation.
Yeah.
But
let me ask you this. From a foundational perspective, what percentage do you think is the mind?
ooh, that's tricky because the mind impacts your ability to sustain the habits. And
Agreed.
so,
And like with Lyme, I feel like so much was infiltrating my mind.
yeah.
I'm genuinely curious from a practitioner's perspective of when you are approaching recommendations for the foundation, how much of the mind or what is contributing to the lack thereof into consideration.
Because our thoughts become our actions, which become our reality, the mind is like 100% in some ways,
Yep.
but just so much as it allows us to maintain the habits that are going to really change how we feel. So I would say overall, 60-70%.
Yeah.
But the importance of light, and we'll dive into that, movement, like all these things, it all together is necessary to create that really sturdy and strong foundation.
Okay, let's start with light then.
Okay, this is a topic that I am like voraciously learning about because it's just completely blowing my mind. So I'm going to try to boil what I have down to something that's easily digestible for people. That being said, it's very possible we're going to have an entire episode on light at some point. So before I talk about light, I do have to talk a little bit about water in the body, just to help you understand why light is so important. So first, just hang with me, guys. This is really fascinating. I promise not to bore you. The water inside our bodies is different than like the water in this glass. Okay. So the water in this glass is H2O, kind of normal water that everyone knows about, thinks about. It is random. So it's like a bunch of just H2O molecules floating around in here. The water in our body and the water that is inside of our cells, that lines our cells, it has taken on this sort of like honeycomb structure. It changes its molecular structure from H2O to H3O2. And so this is important because that structured water can and does hold a charge. So it's one of the ways that our body actually generates and transmits energy throughout the body. You can get really nerdy and talk about how it can hold like memory and all these other things, but all that to say, the water in our body is different than the water that we typically think about. It is more viscous, so it's almost like a honey type of consistency. And we're learning that this structured water, also known as, it has a lot of different names, but structured water, exclusion zone water is another word for it. We're learning that the mitochondria in our cells, so that is generally thought of as like the powerhouse of the cell. It's what generates ATP, which has historically been known as like the energy currency of the body. So anything that happens within the body requires energy, right? Like you can't complete any sort of biochemical reaction or anything, any muscle contraction or whatever without energy. So that's why mitochondria are so important. However, we're learning that while mitochondria do generate ATP, they also generate this structured water as what we thought was like a byproduct. But we're learning that the structured water is actually perhaps more important in the energy production and transmission throughout the body. This matters when it comes to light because the way that the body structures water, the way that it takes it from regular old H2O to this geometric patterned water, is it utilizes light, infrared light, to do that. And there's studies now showing that the water inside of cancer cells has less of this structured water in it
Fascinating.
than like normal healthy cells. It has so many enormous implications. This is why I'm like voraciously learning about it right now. Again, we're just learning that it's almost like a battery within the body because when it's changing its molecular structure from the H2O to H3O2, it kicks out a proton. And so the water itself has like a negative charge, and then the water surrounding that or whatever is surrounding that has a positive charge. And when you've got a negative and a positive, you have energy potential. You have a battery. We're just learning that this probably has a lot more implications in the body, and it's like unraveling a lot of the things that we thought we knew about the body.
Surprise, surprise.
There's a big paradigm shift happening if and when people are open to hearing it. Of course, that takes a long time sometimes in science to really advance and become status quo or whatever. But all that to say, we need light in order to structure the water within our cells and surrounding our cells. I read recently that 99 out of every 100 molecules in the body is water. So this is obviously is important. It's the vast majority of what our bodies are made up of. So that's one reason why light is super foundational. But there's others, and they all tie into that. But another big one is circadian health and circadian rhythm, which again, I'm like just now sinking my teeth into this. And I've been in this world for years and nobody in my circles has really been, I've heard that it's important to get morning sunlight, but again, it just felt like too easy. What that's going to cure all my ailments? No way. But the more I'm learning about light and especially morning sunlight and the amount of red light that's in morning sunlight, it makes so much sense why this is a foundational piece of health that a lot of people are missing. So when we talk about circadian health, most people think about just like sleep and wake cycles. Yes, that's very important. And if a person is dealing with insomnia to any degree, having a hard time sleeping, having a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, which you definitely were early on in your illness, you'd be awake from 1 to 4 a.m. every single night. And that is a lot of people with chronic illness. So circadian health is hugely foundational because it is like the kickstart for every biological process in your body. It's like your circadian rhythm, your circadian health is what tells all of these other processes when and how and where to start, right? And so if that system, if that rhythm is off, it's all off. You think about cortisol and melatonin. So these are two circadian hormones that we have in our body. Cortisol is what makes you feel awake, alive, alert. Melatonin is what makes you feel sleepy and calm and time for rest. And of course, you would want cortisol high in the mornings and low in the evenings. You want melatonin low in the mornings, high in the evenings. And yes, this impacts sleep. And so if you do struggle with sleep, please utilize light and optimize your light environment. But even if you're sleeping okay, I need you to understand how important cortisol and melatonin are, because you may be sleeping okay, but if these two hormones are not in like optimum range, just so many systems fall apart, especially like melatonin. Most people just think about sleep and wake cycles with melatonin. Oh, if I don't have melatonin, I won't be sleepy enough. Melatonin does hundreds of other things that are really important. It's a potent antioxidant, so it's really protective against all sorts of things. But you think about like neurodegenerative things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, even like heart cardiovascular damage. It's protective against cardiovascular disease. It has potent anti-inflammatory purposes, and so it's really helpful to the immune system. It's also involved in gut health. So I always think about melatonin when people have got IBS or colitis or even GERD. It's been like used and proven effective for some people with heartburn or reflux because it strengthens that sphincter that keeps things in the stomach and out of the esophagus. It also is important in gut microbiome balance. So people with dysbiosis, melatonin's involved with that. Another huge one is that it improves insulin sensitivity. So it was found that people with low levels of nighttime melatonin were double at risk for developing diabetes, which is huge.
That's
It's
crazy.
huge. And so any disease process that has to do with insulin resistance, I think of PCOS, definitely diabetes, of course, but also female hormones are really impacted by melatonin. The thyroid is very impacted by melatonin. PMDD is another diagnosis that's been shown to correlate with low levels of melatonin. It is doing so much more than just keeping you asleep at night. So in order to optimize it, we have to work on our circadian health. People are probably tempted when they listen to stuff like this, say, why don't I just take melatonin supplement at night? And sometimes that's helpful in the short term. I definitely wouldn't want that long term for a client, but we want to optimize your body's own ability to generate these things, because sometimes when we take a supplement, we're actually just turning off the body's intrinsic ability to generate it on its
it's going,
own.
why do I need to produce it when you're giving it to me?
Exactly. So yeah, maybe there's definitely scenarios that it's helpful in the short term, but I would always start with optimizing your light environment.
And so what does that look like?
Most importantly, if you only change one thing about your life from this podcast, if you can see the sunrise every morning, bonus points if you put your feet on the ground and do a little meditation or gratefulness moment.
What if it's cloudy?
You'll still get some of those infrared waves in your eyes and on your skin. So still do it, but you're getting more of it, a more concentrated dose, so to speak, when it's not. But seeing the sunrise or being outside shortly after sunrise, the red light in sunrise and also sunset sends all sorts of signals to the body. And it's also that infrared light that is structuring the water in our body that I talked about. So that is a big one because it's really kickstarting that circadian clock, right? It's telling our body like, we're awake, cortisol's up, melatonin's down. It's kickstarting all the different hormone releases and all the things. I would say equally as important to seeing sunrise is being mindful of your light environment throughout the day. Most of us spend roughly 90% or more of our lives inside, which is just wild, really. But we don't think so much about the light that we're exposed to inside. Even us right now. I mean, we've got artificial light shining on us. The reason that matters is because our eyes and our skin has all of these receptors that are constantly sensing our environment. This is why the vast majority of people have wacky circadian rhythms right now and have issues sleeping. Everyone has insomnia, it feels like. But because we're constantly being exposed to artificial light, which in general is not great, but it has a lot of blue light in it, especially in the second half of the day or in the evenings. If we're being exposed to lots of blue light, it's just sending more messages to our body that we should be awake still, more cortisol. And it's messing up the whole rhythm of things. It's also damaging our mitochondria. It's doing all these other things that we've never even thought about before. So seeing the sunrise is really important. If you can see the sunset too, that's great. It's another signal to our body that it's time to wind down now. But getting outside just in general as much as possible for you, but minimum of 15 minutes in a day that's like bare minimum. If you can get outside, and even if you're still working on your computer, but you're outside, that's huge. But then minimizing your blue light in the evenings. And so this one is hard. I understand, like, we love to unwind by watching a show or scrolling on social or whatever, but there's ways to mitigate that. There's apps that you can use on your phone. You might even know more about that than I do. There's ways to lower the blue light on your phone. There's obviously blue blocking yellow and orange glasses you can wear in the evening time, or just put your technology away for an hour, 2 hours ideally before bed, and instead read something or listen to something. Those are some of the biggest ways to optimize your light environment.
It's awesome.
Another really easy and free thing that you can incorporate is grounding. Again, it feels too easy and too simple, but putting your bare feet or your whole body against the earth.
Just butt ass naked out in your backyard.
I would like you all to lay butt ass naked. No. But really just putting your bare feet on the ground is important for a lot of reasons, but mainly the earth holds a negative charge. We know that to be true. It's measurable, and it has to be bare feet. You can't do it like through the soles of shoes. When you put your bare feet on the ground, you're actually like absorbing those negative ions or those electrons into your body, which is helpful in mitigating inflammation. It's almost like an antioxidant. It's limiting the free radical damage and things like that. So this is like pretty well studied. It
I
does.
mean, there's a documentary, I think it's even on YouTube, about grounding.
Really?
Like you can go, I think it's called Earthing.
Mm-hmm.
You can go look it up and watch it. This is heavily studied.
It's heavily studied, which usually when I say that, people are like, then why doesn't my doctor ever say it? Which is interesting because all of these things, light, grounding, earthing,
They're all heavily studied.
they're all heavily studied, but nobody's talking about it because of the incentivization of our healthcare. And I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of that today. I'm not trying to be controversial. It's just a reality that the healthcare system, our doctors, they're not incentivized to give us free tools.
Yeah.
Using light and air and water to heal is not going to benefit insurance companies. It's not going to benefit big
It's
pharma.
also like in so many cases, I mean, for sure, there's going to be immediate positive impacts on your mental health and things like that. But when you are so sick, this is foundational. This is going to help, but may not fix the entire problem. Doctors aren't considering the whole package.
No,
They're trying to look for one thing that's going to take away all.
Yeah, they're looking for something to mask the symptom, right? That's what they're trained in. In some cases, it's necessary if the symptom is life-threatening, right?
Yeah.
All that to say, of course, your primary care doctor is not going to be talking to you about circadian health and grounding because,
But we will.
yeah, there's no ICD-9 code for billing a person for grounding and optimizing their light environment. So those are my two biggies that I love to talk to people about. That, again, like you said, are we going to see like overnight miraculous healing from these foundational things? No, but maybe. I don't know. I don't want to write that off. But is it required in order to have a strong foundation to then promote healing? I do think yes.
I think your biggest impacts in that are going to be in the front part and the back part of a healing journey. Like when you've taken care of all of your toxins and things like that, and you're not seeing as much progress, doing things like this, you're going to notice them because you're feeling more minute shifts than before. Same with upfront. When you really start remedy protocols or you really get into all this and you're attacking and going to town on all the shit that's up inside of you, when you don't have a foundation versus when you have a foundation, you're going to recognize more stability by doing these types of things.
I will say for people who struggle with insomnia or disordered sleep or disordered circadian rhythm, if you truly optimize your light environment, if you see the sunrise every morning, if you limit your blue light in the evenings, if you utilize natural infrared light, whether that's from sunrise or sunset, you will notice a change in your sleep in probably under 2 weeks.
And sleep is paramount in any journey that you're on.
Yeah, I mean, that is the only time your lymphatic system, which is like the waste removal system of the brain, it's the only time that's able to get going. And so without sleep, your brain is going to be accumulating junk, essentially. But there's a lot of other processes that rely on optimal sleep, and just not enough people are getting optimum sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to us about, because this is really your kind of wheelhouse. Obviously, I know it's important from the physical end, but I think the other really foundational piece, mindfulness and awareness. And so what does that look like? How do we optimize that?
Yeah, I think backing up, and we touched on this a few podcasts ago about just slowing down and existing, is how you start your trajectory into your mindfulness journey. Being able to be more aware of your surroundings, of being in the now, of tasting every ingredient inside of what you're eating, noticing the birds that are singing, the trees blowing in the wind, being able to slow yourself down and re-regulate that nervous system is a huge piece of the mindfulness foundation. One thing I will recommend is building more of a ritual inside of mindfulness instead of making it a quote unquote practice or chore inside of your routine, whether it be in the morning, at night, both, every hour. What works for you is going to be the best way to approach mindfulness, but having it be a part of a ritual when you're doing it, I think would have helped me so much.
I feel like it helps you, we were talking about the victimization mindset earlier. It helps you approach these practices with that sense of devotion and self-love and care rather than another thing I have to do and control and another thing on my to-do list in order to heal. Like, it's a completely different energy you're
Yeah.
bringing to it.
I know it's a hot word. I know everyone has been talking about it for the past 5 years. I get it. I know that it can be annoying that so many people are talking about meditation. And when you first start it, it ain't going to be fun. You're not even going to feel anything. If anything, you may feel more frustrated, which sometimes is the point. But stick with it for like 30 days and just see how you feel afterwards. Use guided meditations where it's intentionally guiding you through phases of the mindfulness journey. Use the meditation I created. I'll link in the bio a link on Rudy that you can go and just download it. Just do that meditation every single day. You're going to feel it evolve. You're going to add new things into each song. You're going to start to think of new things. You're going to be able to focus on new things. Trying to control what your meditation looks like is not going to work. Just exist inside of that process. There's a million apps that are free that you can download and utilize it for 30 days to see if you like it. Go on YouTube and start to listen to a million different guided meditations. Visualize what you want to become. Visualize what you're grateful for. All of these things are going to build a foundation of awareness that's going to snap you out of that victim mentality and snap you out of what you're currently in that suffering, to acknowledge that, yeah, this shit sucks, but this isn't what I was made for. There's better out there. The ritualistic side for me is when I started to feel a greater sense of awareness. I genuinely don't care what that is. That can be a spiritual ritual, whether you're reading cards, reading your gratefulness, or journaling, or devos, like whatever. It doesn't matter. Including that into your mindfulness routine kind of brings you into yourself. It brings you into the now and prepares your mind to exercise the idea of mindfulness before you close your eyes and be. When you build out that ritual, whatever that may look like, you begin to build a routine. Erin says I'm too rigid sometimes, and in a lot of ways I am, but it builds rigidity into your routine that allows you to have something to look forward to, even when sometimes you're frustrated in the mindfulness. If I would have done that, I would have stuck to mindfulness so much sooner. I would do mindfulness and be pissed off because I'd be like, I'm thinking about the stress in work, or my mind's not shutting off, or I can't even focus on my breath because my brain is going in 50 different directions. Honestly, sometimes I'd be in so much pain that my mind wouldn't be able to just rest because it would hurt so much. That's when I brought in that section of my meditation that you can go download where you're releasing all of that negative energy. It's acknowledging the pain instead of fighting the pain, and moving it through your body and giving it to the earth where the earth can do what it wants with it. Releasing all of that power, letting it go, and moving into a greater sense of peace is going to work. I promise.
I feel like when I realized that the point of meditation was to get distracted and come back,
Yeah.
it was helpful to know, like, I'm not doing this wrong. I'm getting a lot of reps in.
Yes. And it's approaching those reps with grace.
Yeah.
Not getting pissed off at yourself, not getting frustrated. It's acknowledging and noticing and being aware that, oh, my mind went away. Come on back. Let's come back to the breath, or let's listen to the person talking in the meditation, or let's get back into the reps of what I was supposed to be doing for this song. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And as you get stronger and stronger in those reps, you start doing it in normal life.
Yes.
Where you're like, oh, that was a negative thought. Bring it back. How can I overpower that with a positive thought? How do I reframe that? Or even talking to people in the victim mentality, or just sulking in your pain. You can snap it and be like, whoa, not healthy. How do I reframe that to become healthy? I'm going to get better. I am healing, whatever it may be. To me, mindfulness has to be locked. Even you have to believe that these things are working. Who gives a shit if it's placebo? Who cares if it's working? Even with light, if you're sitting out in the light and you're like, this shit isn't working, this is stupid, bet it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You have to believe in these things. And I think that for me starts with mindfulness. If I can't lock in, if I can't get my mind to a place of rest and peace and curiosity about my inner knowing and safety inside of myself, specifically inside of my mind, meditation can be brutally scary because you don't know what the fuck you're going to find when you slow down and start digging up in that brain. The interesting part of psilocybin, not to talk about microdosing, but one thing that I'm recognizing inside of the microdosing is how things will boil to the top and then just like release gently. Meditation does that same thing. Things are going to come up and you're going to be like, oh, that's gross. I don't like that about me or whatever. And you're going to be able to work through and process those things without judgment and move on.
Yeah, I love when meditation teachers talk about, you can label a thought, you can notice it, but we're never judging them.
No.
Even labeling them to some degree can feel akin to judgment. And so it's just, they're like clouds floating on by. They're here and they're gone.
I talk about that in the meditation that I created, the PDF that you could download. It talks about just let the thoughts come and go. No need to judge them.
And we've talked about this with Bryony before, but it's really just the byproduct of the brain fulfilling its job. The job of the brain is to keep us alive, keep us safe, and therefore it's going to generate thoughts.
Yeah.
And sometimes those thoughts are not helpful. We don't have to identify with every single one of our thoughts or any of them, really. Yeah. It would be the same as identifying with the work that our digestive system is doing. It's just doing its job. And so finding a way to allow those thoughts to just, like you said, they're there and then they pass. We don't identify with them. We're not judging them.
And it doesn't have to be this hour-long meditation.
No. Yeah.
Jeez, oh man. Yeah, would that be great every now and then? That would be awesome for me. I would love that. But building in the ritual where it's okay, 15, 20 minutes, I know I'm going to journal for 5 or 10 and then meditate for 10. And I'm going to meditate on what I journaled or whatever. Or I'm going to listen to a guided meditation. That's all you need. When my nervous system was really dysregulated and I was doing it 10 minutes on the hour, that was just for me to snap out of the chaos that I felt was happening. If that's what you vibe with, go for it. I'm not saying that doing it more is going to hurt, but don't get overwhelmed by the idea of all of these hero meditators who are sitting next to a tree for 6 hours a day. It doesn't have to be that way, especially to start. And give yourself grace. If all you can handle is 5 minutes before you get frustrated, just chill in 5 minutes and celebrate that you're at least doing it. Help yourself succeed.
Yeah.
Is the best advice that was given to me for mindfulness. Even all these other free things. If you can only do 5 minutes of sun, just do it. And
start somewhere.
Anywhere, especially with all these free things.
I think also the ritual part, it builds consistency because it's something that you're looking forward to. For me, every night I go to bed, I'm already excited about and thinking about my coffee.
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of people are similar, maybe, but that coffee then, or whatever beverage of choice you have in the morning, or whatever you look forward to most in the morning, if you can couple that or pair that with 5 minutes of gratitude or whatever it is, it doesn't have to be some long drawn out thing. And same thing with light. I meant to say this earlier, but if you can't sit and enjoy the sunrise for 15 minutes in the morning, I get that. Maybe you're on your way to work when the sun is rising.
Sure.
I get that. That's just a reality of your life. Even just rolling down the window and being mindful of the sun.
Yes.
People don't realize a lot of windows have UV blockings.
UV protection.
Yeah, and just even rolling down the window is a great place to start. Or maybe you're a person who's really crippled by chronic illness right now and even getting outside is too much. Open a window.
Yeah.
Park your chair there for 10 minutes. Yeah, you notice our pets are always following the sun around the house.
One thing that I will say backing up to mindfulness is I think the idea of meditation has a specific connotation built by the industry of what meditation needs to look like. Everyone knows close your eyes and focus on your breath, or close your eyes and eliminate all thought. Why I created the meditation I created was to eliminate the constructs of what meditation should be. It frees you to curate how you best need to meditate at that given point. And it should evolve, allow it to evolve. There's so many studies about gratefulness. And there's a song in the meditation, and regardless of what I'm doing in my meditations on a daily basis, I'm utilizing a segment of my meditation for gratefulness and the manifestation that results in gratefulness. So whether I'm grateful for blank that's happening right now, or I'm grateful for what I'm manifesting, feeling those emotions, guaranteed, research backed, has positive effects on you. So much that I was talking to somebody the other day and they were working on their gratefulness inside of the meditation. And they were telling me how they noticed that they started smiling during their meditation while they were doing their gratefulness part. Being aware of the positives around you are going to have a positive effect on you because that energy is what your body wants to resonate with. Allow it and curate it and allow it to grow. And it will constantly help you be aware throughout the day of all the good that surrounds you, even in your hardest moments. And that's not saying to not acknowledge the hard's going to be there, especially in chronic illness. Like shit's going to suck for a lot of seconds of the day. But when you are building a foundation of gratitude, it helps you push through those hard times with a bit more grace and gives you a sense of peace, even when things may be happening out of your control.
Totally. And I think that a lot of people talk about like the law of attraction, like attracts like. When we are completely succumbing to that, whatever negative vibration in our bodies, which is really just typically expressed as emotion. So if that's we are a victim to our circumstances or whatever, we don't realize because we're not aware, we don't realize that we're inviting more of that into our life.
Yeah.
We're literally attracting it.
Yeah. 100%.
The first step is the awareness to understand what your vibration is or what your energy is or what your emotions are.
It's being more conscious of your conscious.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of these things resonate. If anything, just start building a foundation.
Yeah.
There are so many free resources out there. Google, YouTube, chat, us. Listen to any other podcasts that we've had. Identifying what works for you is going to make you the most successful. We're just giving you tools that exist, hopefully more times than often, because I know y'all, sometimes the sun doesn't come out for a long time. I'm just saying.
The earth is always there, though.
But it is. Yeah. I can't wait to hop my feet in that snow.
I will too.
I know
Watch
you
me.
will. Anyways, there's resources and opportunities for you to sit in all of this and start to build a foundation that is inevitably going to have positive impacts as you move through your healing journey. And if you're not doing it, give yourself grace and start it now.
Yeah.
We're not shaming you for not doing all these. It took me 6 years to get on any of this.
Yeah.
Like I just was frustrated and pissed off and a victim and in this level of friction energetically that nothing was helping. Just start with something small and stick to it.
Healing is a habit.
Boom.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Stay open.
Bye.